Hi guys, so I just finished A Voice in the Wind. I finished it yesterday and it was crazy. So about a week ago, I got a YouTube short on my For You page, and it was a recommendation of Christian books. And as I was watching, it showed Francine Rivers as like an author who writes really good Christian fiction. So obviously I bought two of her most famous books. I read this one first because it had a higher rating in Goodreads. They were basically the same, but still, I decided to read this one first. But when I read it, I didn't realize that it was actually part of a trilogy. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, I had to read the second book. So a few trigger warnings before you read this. It does mention like topics about like abortion and rape, and there's some abuse that goes on in the book too, so if you're like sensitive to those kind of topics, don't read this book. But other than that, it was literally such a good read, and it mostly follows the POV of three characters, or I guess I'd say four too, but the characters that it follows are Hadassah. She is a Jew who is in the destruction of Jerusalem, and basically her whole family dies and she's like the only one left, and she is like sold into slavery. The beginning of the book starts with like her journey and stuff, and she is eventually sold to a family, and in those family we meet two other main characters who are Marcus and Julia. So Marcus and Julia, they're both Roman, right? And Marcus is like this wealthy guy who does like a lot of business. He's a what's it called? Aristocrat. He's an aristocrat. Hadassah has just been sold into their family, and at first they like didn't really like want her, or at least Julia didn't want her, but Julia's mom Phoebe saw something in Hadassah that just like made her like say like, yes, she's the perfect slave for my daughter. So that's exactly what she did. Hadassah becomes Julia's slave and basically just like cares for her throughout the whole story. And then another POV, the other main character, Hadassah, Marcus, Julia, and Atreides. So Atreides is a German soldier who basically was captured in battle, in a battle against Rome. He becomes a slave of Rome, and they force him to be a gladiator. So most of his POV, honestly, it kind of bored me a little bit just because it felt like really repetitive. Like it felt like the same thing over and over again, just like him training and him fighting, him training and him fighting. His POV bored me a little bit. The reading style of this book, so it kind of like starts off with each of them getting their own chapter. So you see like the POV of Hadassah, Atreides, and Marcus. And it starts with the order of like Hadassah. Yeah, it starts in that exact order, I think, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but that's like the order in the beginning, but then it slowly like merges POVs. So if that's like something that kind of like annoys you, honestly, I found it not too hard to follow. It was kind of like weird at first. I was like, wait, but it's not that hard to follow. If that doesn't bother you, then obviously you should read this book. But it also starts fast, like it starts fast and then decreases like so quickly. Like in the beginning I felt like I was getting introduced to so many characters and there was so much that I felt was happening, and then suddenly it like kind of like slowed down and it almost feels like nothing happens but everything happens at the same time. So it kind of like took a while to get used to. But no, this book is historical Christian fiction. Honestly, I expected there to be more romance than there was, but romance is more like of a subplot in this book, which actually kind of makes it like even better. But as I was reading, I was like around 20 like pages left, and I was like, hold on, this is not gonna have a happy ending. So if you're looking up for a book with a romance happy ending, this is not the book for you. I like don't even want to call it a romance, because at the same time it's not a romance, because none of the pairs actually end up together at the end. It actually ends really sadly. As the book goes on, we learn about Hadassah and how she struggled with her faith, and she like keeps struggling, and it's honestly like one of the most relatable things ever. She talks a lot about how she never has the right words and never knows what to say to actually make someone believe the way that she does, and it was so relatable. The way Francine explains that was amazing. Also, John the Apostle is also in this book, so that was like really interesting too. I was not expecting that at all. But this book, I remember reading the preface, and it was like talking about how like the point of this book is for it to like make you want to pick up the Bible right afterwards. And trust me, it literally did that. It was amazing. There's just so many instances where Hadassah like tells like stories from the Bible and like recites scripture and stuff, and it just makes you want to be like a better Christian, and it makes you want to just read and like want to know what she's talking about and stuff. So I obviously Hadassah was my favorite character in this book. Honestly, I expected like a lot of the other characters beside Hadassah to like kind of like grow in their faith and stuff, and you didn't really see that much other than with Julia's parents. So they're like the only ones that are kind of like growing in Christ. And then Julia and Marcus's dad, when he dies, he's actually saved, I'm pretty sure, before he dies. So that was like that was so sweet, and I loved reading about that. But other than that, you see like Julia going down like a path of destruction, and every time you think, oh, it can't get worse, like she can't do anything more, and like she just does it. Like it just keeps getting worse, and it's all because of the people she's around and all of the influence that she has. And it's honestly just so sad and so annoying and frustrating to see her make the wrong decision every single time. Julia self-sabotages so much in this book, and she honestly reminds me, I like realized this halfway through the book, but she reminds me sort of like Jenny Humphrey. Like that's the kind of vibe she gives me. Not like the way she looks and stuff, but just the way she is and stuff. She's like spoiled and like wants everything, but she's like longing for this freedom that she doesn't feel like she has throughout like the whole book. But the way she handles herself and like the situation she puts herself in are like so like, oh, why did you do this and stuff like that. But there's also like Kalaba. I actually hate Kalaba so much. I wish he wasn't in the book because of the influence she has on Julia. Something that I thought was kind of unrealistic about Julia's character is how like she like suddenly turns into like a murderer. Like it's like, I guess it kind of, I don't know, I feel like that was just like, whoa, like she was just like a spoiled little brat, but now she's like a murderer like all of a sudden, which is kind of crazy. But you can like see her path of destruction as the story continues, and it ultimately leads to her sending for Hadassah to be killed at the arena. So honestly, the ending was crazy. I didn't even know how to react. I didn't cry. I wanted to a little bit, but I didn't cry. And it just made me want to read more, because then I like knew that there was what's it called? After that, I knew that Hadassah, spoiler alert, she's alive in the next book, and I'm like, okay, well now I had to read the next book. There's like a little sample of the next book in here, like, so in the first chapter of An Echo in the Darkness, you'll know that she's alive. So that's not that much of a spoiler, but it is if you're trying to read this book. But this is a spoiler video, so sorry. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I think I felt like the amount of faith that Hadassah has is incredible, and the way she expresses herself to others is incredible, and it just makes you just love her as a character. You just have so much love for Hadassah, and when Julia makes like all the mistakes she's making, you're just kind of forced not to like her, because you're like, bro, like what, like open your eyes, you know. The romance subplot is between Hadassah and Marcus and Julia, and well, she has two husbands before Atreides, but she eventually falls in love with Atreides, and Atreides falls in love with her. But then obviously, because she's Julia, she messes it up, and she tries to have her baby killed after, or she gets pregnant with Atreides' baby, but she literally marries another man who's a homosexual too, and lives with him because she wants like a sense of freedom. Like, she's always chasing after freedom in this book. So it makes, like, I guess it doesn't really make sense unless you read it, but she's just dumb. Like, she's just it's so hurtful. She just hurts everyone around her, and she doesn't like, she just thinks they don't understand, but she's actually the one that doesn't understand. This was definitely, I think, the best book I could have read to introduce me to Christian fiction, and I'm literally so excited to read not just the next book but more Christian fiction. Like I said, I have Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers as well, and I'm really excited for that one. But now I really just need to read An Echo in the Darkness, which is the next book in this series. I don't know if I'm going to read the third one, which is, I think, about Atreides, but maybe the next book will convince me to read the next one, just because Atreides didn't interest me that much. I know I keep saying that, but it's so sad. He interested me a lot in the beginning, but then it's just like, I don't know, my interest fell and my interest went away. But yeah, thanks for watching. I think overall I would give this book a 4 stars. I think I would give it a 4 stars just because it felt really slow, and it also kind of felt like everything happened at the end. It was definitely a good book, a good first book to a series, that's for sure. It's definitely sets up like the story for the rest of the books, hopefully. I'm not sure yet because I haven't read the rest of the books, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope you guys all give it a read. Honestly, it's definitely worth it. But yeah, I will read the next book as soon as it arrives. So yeah,